All right, folks, welcome to Roll With It, RHL podcast, episode number 3, as we recap today, week 7 of 8 in the RHL season. We're almost at the end of our current RHL fall season. We'll go over the scores, go over some of the teams and the standings as well, too. And we're going to do that with the help of a top player in our league, one of the nicest guys around as well, too, who we've known for a long, long time, Dan Bagley. Welcome to the show.
Suds, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Dan is the captain of Blades of Steel. Been around for a while now, playing roller in our league. But I met Dan actually through ball hockey. He played for Team Snake Eyes. He came into the league playing for Snake Eyes, Kelly Kieran's old team in DCHL back a couple of years ago. Dan, how did you get involved in hockey? Did you start with roller first, ball second? Tell me about your hockey experience in general.
Sure. So growing up, I had a good friend of mine, Chris, who was really, really into hockey, and he loves the Pittsburgh Penguins. And
Smart guy.
Yeah. Well, no, the funny thing was his dad is a big Philadelphia Flyers fan.
Okay.
So his brother is a Philadelphia Flyers fan. So he decided just to be contrary and decided to be a Penguins fan at a very young age. But so that was always amusing. But he was really, really, really into hockey. So just growing up, I always enjoyed just sort of, real basic street hockey in the neighborhood court and whatnot. I don't think I actually ever really played too much from an organized hockey perspective at an early age. I was always a basketball player. So I'm 6'4" and was always sort of the center of a basketball court. My parents and everybody figured, all right, well, Dan's a tall guy, and he might as well play basketball. And
right.
It took me until much later in my life when I realized that while I am tall for a normal person, I am not actually tall for a basketball player. and certainly not tall for a center who should be standing in the center of the basketball court. And those guys are all 6'8", 6'10", 7 foot tall these days. And so 6'4" just doesn't cut it for that. So basketball is always my organized sport growing up, but always enjoyed playing a bit of street hockey on the weekends and with friends and not. So that's sort of got it started. And then sometime late in high school, so Chris and his brother and some friends got together and got us started playing ball hockey at the Jewish Community Center in Fairfax, and we played there for a season or two. There was a league in Springfield that we played in a season or two in the college time frame, and that was fun. And then we took a 5, 6, 7 year break while sort of all our friends moved to different areas and sort of got lost touch with it. So my buddy Chris moved back about 5 or 6 years ago to the DC area. And sort of got a team back together, and that got me back into ball hockey. So playing ball hockey at the JCC for a number of years, and then my brother Brendan, who also plays on my team for RHL and also played for Snake Eyes. So he was the one who actually found your website for Play DCHL, and that was 3 or 4 years ago at this point in time. And so he found your website. I think I emailed you, and you emailed me back within minutes and said, "Can I call you?" I was like, and I was like, "Oh, okay, you can call me." And so you call me, and you're really excited. I said, "Dan, all right, I think I might have a team for you." They called the Snake Eyes, and so then I got my brother in on that. So he and I played for Kelly's team, the Snake Eyes, in the ball hockey league that season. And that's sort of how we got it all started.
Awesome. Now going back to basketball versus hockey. Basketball was your first love, but now I'm assuming hockey is, or is there still a little priority list there for you?
Yeah, no, hockey is my number one without a question at this point in time. If you gave me the choice of playing or watching basketball or hockey, I'd put hockey well above basketball at this point in time.
And while we're at the hockey topic, your favorite NHL team?
So I'm a Caps fan. Excuse me. I'm a fan of the Stanley Cup champions.
Yeah, the Stanley Cup. You're right.
Washington Capitals.
You guys suffered long enough. Congratulations on the couple of last season.
Thank you. But yeah, support the home team. I've got a special soft spot for the Penguins as well, which is kind of an interesting dynamic being a Caps fan. But my family's from Pittsburgh originally.
Okay.
My mom is in this conversion process where she was long a Penguins fan and is slowly becoming more of a Caps fan. So I generally will root for the Penguins when they're playing anyone but the Capitals.
Awesome. Good to hear that. Your thoughts on the Capitals this year?
Yeah, so I mean, a bit of a Stanley Cup hangover. I mean, obviously they've struggled to actually ice the roster that won them the Stanley Cup, and I mean, with the Wilson suspension and with the injuries, I mean, last night's game was tough, missing 3 or 4 guys from an injury perspective. But 2 nights ago, it was the first time with Wilson being first back, and they had almost the entire lineup that won them the cup, and then they played like it too. I mean, you could really see them. I mean, that was the team that won the Stanley Cup, no question about it. Now, just a matter of question if they can ice that team on a regular basis or not.
Going to stay on the Caps topic here, obviously you've shared the frustration of Caps fan base over the years, the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. Now, what to you was the key point or the key composition that put you over the top last season? What was the key factor?
I mean, obviously, I think once they beat Pittsburgh, I think it was somewhat downhill from there. I mean, it's everyone can see the sort of relief on everyone's faces. I mean, it was over a hump that they had failed to crest for so many years, and Pittsburgh in particular being that mental block. So Kuznetsov with that overtime goal, and I was actually on the court playing RHL Monday night when that happened.
We were going between the TV and the game, correct?
Yeah. So we were in the midst of a period. Someone came running down the hallway of the sportsplex there, saying they scored. We won, and the game just stopped, and everyone said, "Wait, who scored? Who won?" So watch that on replay a few times afterwards. But I mean, after that point, I think it was downhill from there. I mean, they certainly, Tampa put up a bit of a fight, and obviously we all know what happened with Vegas. But I think that was just a nearly 10 years of relief come crashing down. I mean, you could see the just freedom and joy that everyone was playing with, especially Ovechkin. I mean, there was a weight lifted off of his shoulders. So it's not surprising to see them take it all the way once they crested that hump.
Good point. I think you made an excellent point that getting over the Pittsburgh hump, that was a road barrier for a lot of years for you guys there. Finally beating Pittsburgh allowed you to move forward, and maybe give you the momentum as well, too. It's a great point there. One more Caps question here. Your thoughts on this season in terms of coaching? To me, the biggest difference between last year and this year is the coaching. I'm not sold on Todd Reirden. Obviously I'm an Islanders fan, so I'm happy to have Barry Trotz with us. He's done a good job with the limited talent roster. We're overachieving with his system, and Mitch Korn also moving over to the Islanders has really helped our goaltending as well too. Your thoughts on Todd Reirden? Can he be the guy that helps maybe excel over Barry Trotz, or maybe will you take a step back from the coaching department this season?
Sure. I mean, it's obviously a little early to say. I mean, I think Mitch Korn is a huge loss for the Capitals. I mean, I think he did worlds with Holtby and even the backups. I mean, in terms of the loss, I mean, Reirden has obviously played or coached under Trotz for so long, so you could assume he's learned most of what Trotz has to offer. But losing Mitch Korn, I think, is actually probably the bigger loss from my perspective. I mean, Trotz, I think no one can deny his hockey pedigree. I mean, his experience. I mean, his ability to work with the players. I mean, is just all cemented in history with him having the cup with his name on it as well at this point in time. So I think my only complaint about Trotz was his somewhat desire lack of willingness to give the young guys a shot. Yes. I mean, I think the league as a whole is getting younger. It's getting faster. Correct. And he would penalize guys like Vrana, who just have huge upsides to them. And clearly, I mean, they're 22 years old and don't know any better. So they're gonna make mistakes. They're gonna do stupid things, and they need to be coached through it. But he seemed hesitant to give the young guys a shot. So we've seen a little bit more freedom from that perspective from Reirden so far. I think, as I was saying, since he's had so many lineup issues and sort of struggled who to fill that top 6 forward slot with a Wilson out, and now with the current injuries, he's had sort of the same struggles that Trotz did with similar problems. So I mean, they seem similar so far, quite frankly. So I think we got to see the rest of the season before we really see how that goes.
Good point. We're only about 15, 16 games a season right now, so a lot more to go as well, too. It's a long AHL season. Let's transition back into roller hockey.
Sure.
We're talking about your ball hockey experience. Tell me about your roller experience. I know you play the Dallas Sports Specs League in Dallas. You have a team there. Mm-hmm. You've been some of the players over here as well, too. Tell me about your roller background, how that started.
Sure. So, I mean, obviously, I sort of got into hockey from a ball hockey perspective, and I think I had sort of grown out of the JCC league. So the JCC league is played on just a small it's really like half a basketball court. So, I mean, you can take a slap shot from behind your goal and accurately hit the other goal. So
I played there. That's when my career started as well too.
Yeah.
As a goalie, and what we call a pinball game. It's a pinball. Anywhere you want to, it's a pinball machine, basically.
Exactly. So it kind of had grown out of that. I love playing ball hockey up the Rockville Sportsplex, but the everyday Sunday commitment was just a little bit rough on the family. I've got 3 young kids, so the everyday Sunday was a little bit tough. So roller was an opportunity to play some more hockey at some sort of evening hours after my kids are in bed, and sort of get exposed to that a little bit more. So up until it was just about 2 years ago, so the end of December of, I guess, 2016 was the first time I played organized roller hockey as an adult. So,
oh really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I signed up for a Dulles team first of all, and sort of just was assigned as a free agent. And they had a consolation game at the end of their season, and just said, "Hey, come on out." And I bought some skates online, put them on, and the first time I skated around the rink was 8 minutes before the game started.
Wow. Okay. So,
but
I'm assuming you rolled before, so you know.
Yeah. So as a kid growing up, I loved skating. So we had about a quarter-mile, sort of mostly flat driveway growing up. So my brother and I would just sort of skate up and down the driveway all the time. So I have good skating experience, just not good skating and playing hockey. So it was a matter of putting the skating experience together with the ball hockey experience, which was a learning curve to be sure. But sort of got into that through Dulles, and then RHL was on a break at the time because I had been talking to you about getting involved with RHL, and then we started back up sort of the February-March timeframe of 17, and then have sort of been doing both RHL and the Dulles league continuously since then. So it's been very, very interesting. I mean, I feel like my hockey IQ has been forced to grow because of it. I mean, it happens so much faster than ball, and you've got to be thinking further ahead. Certainly the momentum factor is a big piece that is not immediately apparent to a predominantly ball hockey player, of the fact that you can make a move, and then that move continues 8 feet in front of you because you're moving in one direction, the opponent's moving in another direction. So sort of wrapping one's brain around that is perhaps the single biggest transition beyond the fundamentals. So that's been interesting over the past year or so to get used to that.
Now, my difference between ball hockey and roller hockey, my thought is, and this is just my personal opinion, skating is probably the most important asset. You could be a skilled player, it may translate over no problem, but to me, the most important trait, the ability to skate in roller. Would you agree with that, or do you think that the other assets are more important, or skill sets more important?
Yeah. So I mean, it's unquestionably a foundational skill. So unless you can skate, you're not going to be able to play roller. I mean, it's just you've got to get over that sort of entry point. I think it's tough because I sort of I think of skating as just sort of the ability to stay up, to make basic turns, make crossovers, generally stop things along those lines. So the movement factor of inline is a combination of your skating, your hand-eye skills, and your ability to foresee a path going forward. And that's the part that's the single biggest challenge, because I find myself being able to, I mean, I can skate decently well in sort of any direction I choose, but being able to combine that simultaneously with looking up the court so I know what's going to happen, thinking about what I need to do while managing the hand-eye coordination to keep my stick on the puck, moving forward in the direction that I want to. It's putting that all together. It's the full package that is the real challenge in my mind.
Excellent point. Let's talk about RHL, the league itself, the league you play in. We've changed our format once actually. We started actually the ball hockey roller, then we went to puck about 2 years plus ago. Your thoughts on the league and the people around, and just give me your honest opinion on the competition, the people, the format, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, I've been there. So I joined right when we switched to the puck.
Yes.
I started since it's puck only, so I don't have any experience when we were still with the ball. But I mean, I think it's incredibly fun league to play in. Obviously, a group of people who really care about playing hockey, and that's the primary concern.
Yes.
It's funny in some ways. I find RHL and roller to be a little less serious than ball hockey. I mean, I see
correct. Yes.
people at the higher end of ball hockey just get really serious in it, and it's about did we win today, or it's the 3 versus 2 nail biter games. And roller, everyone's out there to have fun. So you'll as you know, you'll see people put on one jersey for one game, and then the teams will basically mix up and play for the next completely different mix of people for the next game. So seeing that sort of camaraderie and just a desire to play hockey is really what makes it a lot of fun. Obviously, it's a faster game, so it's something to keep a close eye on from a movement perspective, ensuring that you're constantly looking one step ahead.
Excellent point. In terms of RHL this season, you're playing currently in 2 different teams. We'll go over the game recap scores here, saying momentarily here. But before we go there, I want to just ask you a couple of personal questions. Get to know who Dan Bagley is.
Sure.
What do you do for a living? I know you're involved in the video production business. Is that correct?
Sort of. So I work for a local software company in Herndon, Virginia. So it's called VBrick Systems, VBrick. And we got our start as a video encoding company. So basically, the video brick was the main product, and it's a little small encoder that would take a camera signal and convert it into a network streaming signal. And we got our start nearly 20 years ago. We were one of the first companies that did that sort of thing.
Wow. Okay.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, which is about the time that I joined VBrick, we made a decision to pivot the company and focus on software and services that enables enterprises and public sector organizations to leverage video inside of their organization. So we took that video streaming expertise that we've had for 20 years and converted it into a software and cloud services company. So we sell software today that enables organizations, sort of Fortune 500 type enterprises, to enable both live video streaming. So if you're a CEO and you want to address 20,000 employees around the world via video, that's a challenging thing to do on the corporate network. So our software and services enable that. Or if you want to have internal video recording repositories, so effectively YouTube for the enterprise.
Interesting. Are you familiar with Boxcast?
Boxcast? I don't think so, actually.
Okay, they're also, I just tried them out for streaming purposes, for encoding as well too. So you sound similar to what Boxcast does as well too. That's great to hear. Now, Dan Bagley, 3 kids, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do they play hockey? How old are they?
So they are 3, 5, and 8 presently.
Okay,
So
not quite that age yet, but they're going to probably start.
Well, I did actually just sign up to the 5-year-old, and I had to be very careful about this because I had to make sure I wasn't unduly influencing him. But a couple weeks ago, the 5-year-old boy, so the 8-year-old's a girl, and the 5 and 3-year-olds are boys. The 5-year-old came to my wife and said, "When can I play hockey?" And she said, "Well, you're going to have to talk to your dad about that." So we did finally decide to take the plunge, and we signed him up. The Capitals have a learn to play hockey program, which is actually a pretty nice program. It's a 8 or 9 week program that all sorts of different ice rinks, including the one right next to the Sportsplex in Rockville. And it's not expensive in the scheme of hockey things. It's, I think, $200 for the one I signed up for in Virginia, and they get 8 weeks of instruction. They provide all the equipment, and it's meant as an intro to hockey for 5 to 9 year olds. So we got the 5-year-old signed up for it, and the 8-year-old might join as well. So.
That's awesome. Getting started pretty young out there. It's great. And yeah, no pressure, right? Yeah, I love hockey. No pressure. It's good that they asked you first, right? He asked you first, which is great. Let's talk about, quick hitters here. Some of our quick hitters questions to get to know who you are. Rice or pasta? I always ask this question. Rice or pasta?
Pasta.
Oh, okay. Beer, wine, or mixed drinks?
Today, beer.
Okay. Are you a early bird or a late night owl?
More of a late night owl, though the 3 kids have changed that.
Exactly. There you go. All right. We got to know a little bit of Dan Bagley, about his kids, about his job, and about who he is. Let's talk about RHL. Let's bring it back into the RHL games here we have on tap. I'm going to go back and recap some of the games from from last week and also ask your opinion on some of these games. You played in both divisions, so you know how it works. Now, let's give a little caveat to people listening to this podcast or watch the podcast as well, too. Dan Bagley, your team is in both divisions recently. You've been in D2, you've been in D1, and honestly, Dan's been great working with me to make sure that whatever division we need him in, he's willing to accommodate that. We appreciate that from his team as well, too. You're one of the tweener teams. I call it tweener teams where, you're probably too good for D2, but you're probably not good enough for D1, and you go back and forth, and it's a social league, so we understand the competition of teams and how it works. This season, you're actually in you won D2 last season, you're in D1 this season with Blades of Steel. Let's go back and talk about Blades of Steel, your team in general. You won the Cup last year in D2. Your thoughts on that and your thoughts on your D1 team this season?
Sure. So obviously winning last year or last season was a lot of fun. I think we had a couple new players come into the team last season. That was part of the reason that we went down to D2. So we lost Toby and Jung, who were sort of really two of our best players. So they moved on to different teams. So losing those two players, and so Brendan, my brother, who it was actually his first time playing organized roller hockey. So,
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So he joined, and then Andrew, who's sometimes subs for goalie with us. He's a very solid player, but first time playing in the league. So with Andrew and Brendan taking over for Jung and Toby, we moved out of D2 last season, and you're right. We were probably the top end of D2 and didn't struggle too much inside of D2, but it was obviously fun to get the win and hoist the cup. So moving back up to D1, we actually had somewhat of the reverse problem. So Kyle, who's definitely one of our best current players, is basically taking a step back. He's just sort of subbing for us this season, and it's funny, we have a player on our team called Tall Dan, who is taller than me and named Dan. And so he's actually been in Australia for work for the past couple months. So so he's been taking some time off under that. So that's been a little bit of a loss moving up to D, and while simultaneously moving up to D1 this season. So this season's been, we'll call it a rebuilding year for us, and we've had, I'd say, most of the games. We've done 6 so far. So I'd say at 4 of the 6 so far, we've done 7 games so far. We tied once and lost 6. So I'd say 5 of the 7 games have been reasonable competitive games where we haven't felt like it's been a problem. There's probably been 2 of those 7 that have gotten a little out of hand and gotten a little frustrating. So it's not bad. I mean, there's a huge difference in my mind of losing a game that you're nonetheless sort of skating well in, getting some passes, getting some shots, getting some goals. As long as I play roller to sort of, one, for the exercise, but also to get better myself. So as long as I feel like I'm getting better myself and getting that experience, then it's still a fun, worthwhile experience. So, but it's definitely been a little bit more challenging this season. So I'll probably be hitting you up to move back to D2 next season. But as always, we'll have our
we'll have a discussion.
We'll have the discussions. Yeah.
Yes. And and I want to thank you because you do a good job of working with us. We appreciate it. There's never a perfect answer. We're trying to make the best mix possible and add players. If you have roster spots, we'll add players to make either help you move up to D1 or D2, whatever it takes out there. Let's talk about one of your star players this season. You've had a couple of good goalies, but this year you've got a new goalie, Douglas, who joined the league, and you've got also another player on your roster who's also a great goalie too, Andrew Willenbrook. Let's talk about Douglas first. He's been lights out for you, keeping you in games. Your thoughts on Douglas, and then talk about Andrew playing out most of the time, and also being your back goalie as well too. You got a pretty good punch there. 1-2 punch.
Yeah, I mean, so Douglas is amazing. I mean, he's awesome. I believe he's moved recently to the area, so we're lucky to sort of have him. The interesting thing, so he actually has some experience playing at some higher level leagues. So I forget which. Do you remember which national team it was?
Yes, but he played for the Brazilian national team. He told me yes. So so
he told me that as well. So I mean, he has some experience playing at a really high level, and you can see that. I mean, when he's facing down one of the top end skaters in D1, and he has a clear view of the puck coming in, I mean, it's not getting past him. I mean, when he's beat for a goal, it's because we on the defense have broken down and allowed some sort of ridiculous lateral movement. So if he has a shot to make the save, 99 times out of 100, he's going to do that. So I mean, he's a really solid player. And the funny thing was, he actually is playing a bit for my Dulles team as well. So I moved Dulles teams, and the captain of my Dulles team was looking for a goalie, and he's like, "Yeah, I just got this email about this new guy. He played for the Brazilian national team, I think." I was like, "Wait, is his name Douglas?" So,
it was coincidental it worked out.
yeah, completely coincidental. I mean, it wasn't anything I set up. It just sort of so happened. So
that's great.
So,
Small world. That's great.
yeah.
Talk about Andrew Orenberg. You're a guy who I saw play last season, and when he first played, he was lights out. I mean, I thought this was a veteran D1 goalie playing for a long time, and I'm told he really plays goalie. So tell me about Andrew.
Yeah, sure. So Andrew is so he joined our JCC hockey team through sort of a friend of a friend of a friend. It's funny. I mean, now we're friends with Andrew, of course, but originally he went to school with somebody who joined our team as a free agent, and that's how. And that person has long since moved on, but that's how Andrew got into the mix. So he enjoys playing out. I think he has a decent amount of experience playing ice goalie. And that's sort of always been his position. So when he plays floor or inline, he likes to play out. But he shared some of the duties for ball hockey goalies for us on the JCC team. And then when we talked to him about joining the roller team, he said, sure, but he hopes he can skate out mostly because he doesn't get a chance to do that very often. So he'll go to Kettler. He lives in Virginia, and so he'll go to Kettler and play pickup ice there. And when he was in grad school in Arizona, he was on an ice team there, being their goalie. So ice is really where he gets a lot of his goalie experience, but likes to use the opportunity of playing roller to skate out. So that's why we use him sparingly as our backup and let him skate out most of the time.
Yeah, he's been very helpful to us for filling in when you need a goalie.
Yeah,
awesome out there. One more last question on the topic of Blades of Steel, your team in D1. My guesstimation, you need one or two more scores to be ultra competitive. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I mean, I think one of our biggest problems, and probably those two games that I mentioned that have gotten out of hand, has been because it's been pinned in our zone just a little bit too long. And sometimes we'll clear it out successfully. So I usually play defense. So from a defense perspective, we'll get it out to midcourt or even the opponent's blue line. But when the opponent brings it right back into our zone immediately, that's just deflating, and that sort of can really allow them to pile up the score. So I think getting one or two more key scorers, and if Dan R can come back, then that'll help there. But being able to put some pressure on the other team's offensive zone will sort of even it up naturally, not only for the goals that we score because of that, but keeping them out of our zone, and that'll have a defensive follow-on helpfulness.
Excellent point. Let's go on talk about the scores from last week, Monday night, just recently here, week number 7 of 8. Going to go over the games with you and share your thoughts on your teams as well. So you know most of these teams, feel free to share your thoughts here. First game, it was the Wheelers against the Stanley Capitals. What a nice name, huh? Stanley Capitals. Alex Kalis, the Kalis brothers. Alex had 2 goals. Jeff Babb, who plays in your team, plays in the lower division with them, had 2 goals. They beat the Wheelers 5-3. Your thoughts on the Kalis brothers? You know them. They're a group of guys who joined their league. One of the greatest skaters that they've developed into pretty good players. Your thoughts on them and also the Wheelers? You beat them actually in the finals last season.
Yeah. So I mean, obviously the brothers are pretty decent players, and I mean, I enjoy playing with my brother as well. So it's always a special thing when you can pass back and forth on a court with your family member like that. So that's always fun. The Wheelers, they're an interesting team. I mean, they have a couple really decent players on that team. I know they've struggled with some attendance issues. I've actually filled in for them a couple times just on an emergency basis, which is always fun. So I really keep waiting for the season where they break out. I feel like it's gonna happen one of these times, that they're gonna string together a number of good games where they get the attendance they need, or maybe 1 or 2 extra players. And I think they're gonna break out one of these seasons here.
Yeah, don't be surprised if the playoffs, all the players show up, they make a run, because I have them in the top 2 team. There in Little Big Man, top 2 team. Second game was your game. It was the Blades of Steel falling to, that's what she said, 10-3. Of course, one of your old pals, Toby Muse, had a big game. He had 4 goals. Your thoughts on that game? Was it one of those games that got away early for you?
Well, so I feel like we did pretty solid for the first 10 or so minutes of that game, and we kept it reasonably close, but we started to fall down pretty quickly. It was an interesting game because we had a decent roster. I thought I was going to be really, really short and called in some extra subs, and we actually got Kyle back. Chad came back, and you had Matt join us as well. So we had 8 skaters and decent ones as well, but I think it was one of those where we were hanging on for maybe 10 minutes or so, and then Toby got a few of those goals, and then it kind of got blown open. So
there you go. Now game number 3, it was the other D1 game, was the Rough Riders falling to High Rollers 12-5. Kyle Powers with 7 goals, 1 assist. You've played both these teams. These are your D1 opponents. Your thoughts on the High Rollers, who are currently in first place? They haven't lost a game. They have 2 ties against, that's what you said, the team you lost to this past Monday. And your thoughts also on the Rough Riders as well.
So the interesting thing here is that, I mean, High Rollers having such a much better record than the Rough Riders. I put those teams a lot closer from a skill level than their records show. I mean, I don't see a ton of difference playing them. I mean, the High Rollers are maybe a little bit of an edge, but I'm honestly surprised to see that big of a difference from a record perspective.
Yeah, I think they're missing some players. Dan wasn't there. Dan Rydick wasn't there as well, too. So, again, attendance issues, as always, will be a key factor in games on a week-to-week basis. But the High Rollers are a team that Matt Morgan brought in, and they are the favorites right now. And that's what she said. So, in the pecking order, how things change, the Rough Riders set the standard for D1 a couple of seasons back ago, but now they're coming in and giving competition as well, too. So, it should be fun to see how the playoffs all work out for you.
Yeah.
The last game of the night was Dennis Owen scoring 4 goals as the Hurricanes, a team that demoted as well too. Team he played against in other divisions as well too. They beat Little Big Men, the other team in this division in D2. That's a top team, and a team that also went up and down as well too. That game was a 6-2 score. Your thoughts on the Hurricanes? Now, no Eddie Owen there. Dennis Owen is there this season, and your thoughts on Little Big Men as well as from a team perspective.
Yeah, it's been interesting to see the evolution of Hurricanes. As you mentioned, they sort of were when they first joined RHL. I mean, they sort of took the league by storm, and we were all sort of like, "Whoa, look at this!" And I think the average skill level of the league has gone way up since then. Yes. So that has changed, but it's been interesting to see their evolution. I mean, obviously they've got some really solid players, and when they have the attendance there, seeing them work the puck around is always fun to see, but it's been interesting to see their evolution as it's gone on.
You made a great point that when we went to puck, actually, the standard barrier was the Hurricanes when they first came in. Then it was the Rough Riders. Now maybe the High Rollers. So it gets ratcheted up every single season as the talent level grows in our league as well too in D1 division.
I will say I give them credit for the uniforms, and that yes. One of these times I'm going to get some custom uniforms for Blades of Steel, and I think that will up our game substantially.
That's the missing piece right there. D1 standings right now through 7 of 8 games. High Rollers are 5-0-2 in first place. That's what she said. It's 5-2-0 with the only 2 losses coming against the High Rollers, 3rd and 2nd place. Rough Riders 2-4-1. As you mentioned, Blades of Steel 0-6-1. 1 more week to go in this regular season. You're going to play the High Rollers this coming up Monday. That's probably going to be your opponent in the playoffs as well too. So it'll be back-to-back weeks. Mm-hmm. How do you beat this team, and how do you prepare for the next 2 weeks here?
Yeah, so I mean, a couple things. So I mean, I firmly believe while our average skill level might not be there in D1, we are capable of stealing a game against any one of these teams. So first of all, we need absolutely solid goaltending. So I don't know whether it'll be Douglas or Andrew yet, but we need them to show up, which I firmly believe they can. We've got to disrupt the cycle game. So I mean, when one of those teams can pin it in your zone and cycle it around, they're going to score on you. So we cannot allow that cycle to occur. So that means just absolutely getting in the passing lane, disrupting the cycle. And then lastly, we need to put a few on net. I mean, so we while we're slightly diminished from a scoring capability, I mean, you take a look at pretty much the whole roster. I mean, anyone on my roster can go skate it up and put it in net or make a pass and set their teammate up to put it in net. So I know that we are capable of doing it. We just need to show up and do it. So, I mean, if we can string all those 3 things together with some solid goaltending, disrupting their cycle, and get a few goals of our own, we can certainly keep it competitive.
Absolutely. Key's going to be attendance. Make sure your top players are there. Obviously, Douglas in goal, so Eddie can play out. Number 2. And number 3, obviously, is puck possession. You need more possession time. You can't spend 80% of time in your zone. You got to be at least 40, 60, in that range to keep and have a chance at the upside as well, too. But I think it's very doable as well, too. Let's look at D2 action. D2 standings actually right now. Little Big Man currently in first place, 5-1-1 with 11 points. Hurricanes 4-2-1 with 9 points. Hurricanes beat Little Big Man this past week for the first loss for the Little Big Man, so that race tightens up a little bit. Stanley Couples have got 3 wins. They're 3-4-0 with 6 points, and the Wheelers surprisingly in last place, 1-6-0 with 2 points. Your thoughts on the division? Who do you think will come out of the division and make a big playoff run?
Well, I mean, as I already mentioned about the Wheelers, I'm still picking them to break out at some point. So, I mean, I think they could absolutely surprise Little Big Men in the playoffs if that's the matchup that comes through. So, I'm going to be privately rooting for them as the dark horse candidate. I bet there would be some good odds that I could pick up on that one.
Yes, I'm sure we'll pop some spots up there as well too. Good point there. Well, thank you for joining us. One last question before we let you go here is, if you are a roller player like yourself, just got into it about 2 years back ago, what advice would you give to new roller players out there on how to best improve their skill set and how to best develop their game moving forward if you're a new player?
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, just in general, for people thinking of trying it, is that it's easier than you think. I mean, when I started thinking about playing roller, moving from ball, I mean, it was a scary thought of, okay, well, what equipment do I need, and how am I going to do this? And I mean, it's a lot to think about, and it's really not that bad once you get into the mix of it. So I would first encourage somebody thinking about doing it to give it a try. I mean, and second of all, I mean, practice. I mean, this is the sort of thing that if you can get in a groove and you're doing it twice a week, you get an RHL game on Monday, you manage to go out and skate another day that week, you get some repetition. It's all about building that muscle memory. I mean, especially for someone like me who's only now doing it at 35 years old in my
35 years young, huh?
Exactly. So I don't have, unfortunately, that 20 years of muscle memory built up from the skating and playing together. But I mean, you can feel it build. I mean, you get into a rhythm and sort of practice. I mean, it's kind of the old adage, but I mean, practice makes perfect. So.
Awesome. Well, great. It's been great 35 minutes of talking to you, Dan Bagley. Hang tight here. I want to thank the folks watching as well for watching this third episode of the RHL podcast. We have one more week to go in the regular season. It's going to be coming out this Monday. Then we have playoffs the Monday after Thanksgiving. So we'll come back with more episodes as well, too. Thank you, Dan, for joining us, for being such a great person to work with as a captain with me, and a great player as well, to bringing in great talent as well, too, and quality teams into RHL. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me, Suds, and as I've said a couple times, I mean, thank you for everything that you do in these leagues. I mean, it's been just such a pleasure playing in all of them. So thank you for it all.
Oh, so before I let you go, actually one more question about this question. Actually, you actually played in the RMNB tournament, correct? And you,
yes.
Your team, if I recall correctly, is now a 2-time champion. Is that correct?
Yeah, so
two-time RMNB champion.
No, in the first annual RMNB tournament, we brought a team to the rec division, and we managed to win the rec division in the first annual RMNB. And then we skipped it last year, but then ended up coming back this year. You did give us a ringer or two, so Keith Ingram did join our team, which was nice to play with him rather than against him for once. But we managed to pull it out and win the pro division this time around. So that was a lot of fun. So
you guys are 2 for 2 so far. All right.
Yep.
So look for you to go for a 3-peat next year as well too. RMB, if you don't know what RMNB is, the Russian Machine Never Breaks Kappa's blog that we work with Ian Olin on. Great guy as well too. So if you want to play that tournament, we'll have more. Probably do it more often than once a year coming up. So keep that in mind as well too. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. Thank you, folks, for joining us as well too. We'll see you next time. If we don't talk to you now and then, have a great Thanksgiving break. Have a good one.
Thank you.